How's it going, everybody? My name is Rinzler here, back again for another video, and welcome back to my A Song of Ice and Fire Character Origins series. Today we're going to be discussing the three children of Jaime and Cersei Lannister, Joffrey, Tommen, and Myrcella Baratheon. They're all children born of incest and are technically of bastard status, but many characters in the story are unaware of this, including the characters themselves. So, since we've already talked about both of their parents on this series before, I thought it was appropriate that we cover all of their stories here. Now, originally I was going to give Joffrey his own story because he's a very vital character in the first couple books, but I decided that I could combine all three siblings' stories together since they all really do have something to do with one another. So, without further ado, let's discuss Joffrey, Tommen, and Myrcella Baratheon. Before I do so, just a quick reminder that this video is based on the A Song of Ice and Fire book series and not the Game of Thrones TV show that the books are based off of, not the Game of Thrones TV show that is based off of the books. So, without further ado, let's talk about Joffrey, Tommen, and Myrcella Baratheon. Joffrey Baratheon was the first born in 286 AC. Most people in the world, including Joffrey himself, believe that he's the son of Queen Cersei Lannister and King Robert Baratheon, but his real father is his own uncle, Sir Jaime Lannister of the Kingsguard. Being a pureblood Lannister meant that he, of course, had green eyes and blonde hair and was considered handsome from a very young age. Being a royal with good looks and lots of money meant that Joffrey was indulgent and spoiled from a young age. Once, Joffrey cut open a pregnant cat's stomach to see the unborn kittens inside. He took one of the dead kittens to King Robert, who was understandably shocked and horrified by Joffrey's actions, and promptly hit him so hard that two of his baby teeth fell out. Cersei later claimed that Robert would have beat him more if she didn't intervene. Joffrey bullied people from a very early age as well, particularly his uncle Tyrion Lannister and his younger brother Tommen Baratheon. Cersei assigned the Hound as Joffrey's sworn sword, and Joffrey nicknamed him Dog, calling him Dog whenever he referred to him. King Robert was extremely disappointed with Joffrey because he was cruel, cowardly, and because his mother was very overprotective of him. He didn't learn how to fight as a page or a squire as most children do. Robert therefore spent more time with his bastard children, Edric Storm and Maya Stone instead, meaning that he was very neglectful of Joffrey, which might have caused Joffrey to become the way that he was. Robert did throw a name day tourney for Joffrey in 288 AC for his 12th name day. When Jon Arryn dies, King Robert brings Joffrey and his younger siblings, Myrcella and Tommen, with him to Winterfell to ask Eddard Stark to replace Jon Arryn as his Hand of the King. While in the north, he goes hunting with Robert and spars with Robb Stark, insulting him while doing so. He mocks Tommen while he's sparring with Bran Stark as well. When Bran supposedly falls from a tower, he talks rudely about him and refuses to pay his respects to his parents until Tyrion slaps him repeatedly, forcing him to do so. On the way home to King's Landing, Joffrey spends time with Sansa Stark since their fathers want them to get married one day to form an official alliance between houses Baratheon and Stark. While Sansa is head over heels for Joffrey and regularly fantasizes about being with him, he secretly hates Sansa and only courts her when his mother tells him he has to. The pair spend a day riding and drinking wine together, but they soon discover Sansa's sister Arya sword training with Micah, a local butcher's boy. Joffrey at first drunkenly mistakes Micah for attacking Arya. Joffrey makes fun of Micah and challenges him to a sword fight. Since Micah can't fight Joffrey because he's a prince, Joffrey begins chastising Micah and also begins cutting his cheek with his sword lion's tooth. Arya promptly hits Joffrey with a stick in the head, which causes a cut and also causes Joffrey to chase her with his sword, trying to attack her. Arya's direwolf Nymeria steps in and rescues Arya by biting Joffrey's arm and leaving a scar behind. Joffrey then yells at Sansa, humiliated, and runs to tell Cersei, who demands Arya, Micah, and Nymeria be found. Micah is killed by the Hound. Joffrey lies and says that Micah and Arya set Nymeria onto him for no reason. Sansa has to back up his story since she wants to please her new husband-to-be and also wants to show loyalty to him. Arya, however, scared Nymeria off into the wild by throwing rocks at her, so Sansa's direwolf lady is executed in her place. In King's Landing, Ned Stark discovers Joffrey's true parentage and discovers that Jon Arryn had mysteriously been killed soon after he had discovered the same thing. He makes the mistake of confronting Joffrey's mother Cersei directly, so Cersei's able to plan out beforehand. When Robert is unexpectedly killed during a boar hunt, Joffrey is hastily coronated, and Ned Stark is arrested and branded a traitor to the crown. Sansa pleads before Joffrey to allow her father to live, but instead, he has Ned executed. Joffrey's command to execute Ned Stark was the first of his many stupid decisions as king. This act pissed off the Starks, who declared independence from Joffrey and the rest of the kingdoms. He also pissed off the Faith of the Seven, since Ned was executed right at the front of the Sept of Baelor. Joffrey's dumb decisions continued when he dismissed Sir Barristan Selmy from the Kingsguard for being quote-unquote too old, even though he was still one of the best swordsmen in the world. All this did was lose Joffrey one of his greatest possible allies. Joffrey then cruelly forces Sansa Stark to look at her father's severed head and promises to feed her brother Robb's head as well when he defeats him in battle. Joffrey begins setting his Kingsguard members to regularly beat Sansa whenever her brother Robb defeats the Lannisters in battle. On his 13th name day tourney, he tries to have Sir Dantos Hollard executed for showing up drunk, but Sansa convinces him to make him a fool as it would be more humiliating, which saves his life. Joffrey hates Sansa, but it is implied that he still wants to have sex with her at some point just to be an asshole. The only smart decision Joffrey makes as a king is naming his grandfather Tywin Lannister as his new Hand of the King. He's forced to tolerate his uncle Tyrion acting as Hand, however, until Tywin returns from battle with the Starks. Joffrey attempts to have Sansa publicly stripped in the throne room, but luckily Tyrion prevents this from happening. Joffrey ignores the small folks' troubles with food shortages, which leads to a riot where Joffrey is pelted with shit and is nearly killed by the mob. Joffrey participates in the Battle of the Blackwater, but Cersei brings him back inside, which causes them to nearly lose the battle when the men lose confidence after their king flees. When Tywin returns to King's Landing with the Tyrell family, Joffrey decides to set aside Sansa Stark and marry Margaery Tyrell instead, to keep a lasting alliance between houses Lannister and Tyrell. When Tyrion is forced to marry Sansa, Joffrey lets his intentions of When Tyrion is forced to marry Sansa Stark, Joffrey lets his intentions of raping Sansa on her wedding night be publicly known. Tyrion, however, threatens to kill Joffrey if he tries, which startles Joffrey as nobody normally stands up to the king. When Robb Stark is killed in the Red Wedding, Joffrey is thrilled and wants to serve Robb's head to Sansa as wedding feast like he promised at the end of the first book, but thankfully Tywin shoots this down. Joffrey is given many gifts for his wedding, including a rare book from Tyrion called The Lives of Four Kings, which he hopes will educate Joffrey on how to better his reign. When Tywin gives him a Valyrian steel sword named Widow's Wail, he uses it to promptly chop Tyrion's book into pieces, right in front of Tyrion, who's shocked and pissed off. On the first day of 300 AC, a new century, Joffrey and Margaery Tyrell are married. At his celebrations, many lords and ladies arrive. Joffrey mocks Tyrion by forcing him to be his cupbearer and watching a bunch of dwarves perform a mock joust. Joffrey, however, thankfully, is poisoned to death by Littlefinger and Olenna Tyrell, bringing an end to this horrible boy's reign at just the age of 13. Tommen Baratheon was much, much, much kinder than Joffrey was. He adopted a pet fawn that Joffrey later skinned alive, possibly right in front of Tommen, which must have been very traumatizing for him. Tommen became overweight and was mocked and heckled by Joffrey constantly throughout his childhood. During the War of Five Kings, Tommen is disguised as a page by Cersei and sent to Rosby with the King's Guard for his own safety. Tyrion, however, intercepts this plan so that Tommen will be under his protection instead of Cersei's. Tyrion loved Tommen and treated him like a son from a young age, as well as his sister Cersei. Tommen returns to King's Landing after the Battle of the Blackwater. He scatters rose petals at Joffrey and Marjorie's wedding ceremony, and also hands Joffrey the bride's cloak that he puts on Marjorie's shoulders. When Joffrey is poisoned, Tommen is hastily coronated as king. Boros Blount becomes his new food taster to avoid another poisoning. Tommen is soon betrothed to Marjorie Tyrell, but since he's only about 7 or 8 years old, this obviously wasn't consummated. Tommen is far from ready to rule as king, however. He stamps every document put in front of him without reading it, and gets easily scared of the mountain that rides when he screams in pain, and also flees in disgust at Tywin's corpse. But he is comforted by his true father, Jaime, when this happens. Cersei becomes drunk and very abusive to Tommen. Marjorie tries to get Tommen to stand up to Cersei, but when he attempts to pull rank on her, she hits him. He prefers to spend his time with his cat, Sir Pounce, in isolation. He also becomes enamored by Sir Loras Tyrell's fighting abilities and wants him to train him how to fight, but Cersei forbids it since she doesn't trust House Tyrell. Tommen stands up to Cersei when she threatens Marjorie's life, so Cersei forces Tommen to beat his whipping boy Pate until he bleeds. Myrcella is the middle child, being younger than Joffrey and older than Tommen. She has a healthy dose of curiosity and is very much a people person, with nobody having a bad thing to say about her. Myrcella is sent to Dorne with Kingsguard member Sir Aerys Oakheart to be betrothed to young Tristan Martell and form an alliance during the War of Five Kings. Myrcella really takes to Dornish culture and regularly plays Savast with Trystane. Aerion Martell secretly plans to crown Myrcella. Aerion Martell plans in secret to crown Myrcella as queen under Dornish law. In Dorne, the oldest child inherits the leadership position regardless of gender, so Aerion schemes to crown Myrcella since she's older than Tommen. Their plan to crown Myrcella, however, is thwarted by Areo Hota, who kills Aerys Oakheart and arrests Aerion. Gerald Darkstar Dane then attempts to kill Myrcella, but only succeeds in cutting off her ear and leaving a horrible scar behind. It's unknown at this time what Darkstar was planning to do, but it's likely that he may have been paid off by an enemy of the Lannisters. And that's the story of the 3 Lannister/Baratheon children up to this point in the story. Obviously, you can tell that Joffrey was the worst of the 3. He didn't do anything right in his reign. He constantly was making enemies, mocking people, and generally being an asshole to anybody who came across his path. While some of this can be chalked up to Robert's neglectful nature, Joffrey really wasn't ready to rule, and would have done better if Joffrey had waited until he was a little older to become king. The same thing could apply to Tommen. Tommen is far too young to be king, and at this point in the story, everybody's practically ruling the kingdom for him because he doesn't know what he's doing. Although I do have to say that Tommen and Myrcella are quite obviously much, much, much better characters than Joffrey. Something I forgot to mention in the video is that their mother, Cersei Lannister, got a prophecy from Maggie the Frog when she was young that said that all of her children would die before she did. At this point in the story, Joffrey is dead. So far, Maggie the Frog's prophecy is coming true. Maggie the Frog also said that all 3 of her children would be crowned kings and queen before they died. This means that Myrcella is going to be crowned queen at some point in the story, but it's unknown when and to who, but it's possible that she could be betrothed to Aegon Targaryen VI, since he is planning to invade Westeros, and marrying a Lannister/Baratheon would help him with his claim to the Iron Throne. Unfortunately, if the prophecy is coming true, this does mean that Tommen and Myrcella's days are numbered, and they are unlikely to survive the next 2 books. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me that much if they both die in the Winds of Winter. We don't know how severe Myrcella's injury is. She's regularly been hidden away since Darkstar injured her, and we actually don't know how bad her wound is, or whether it'll heal properly or not. It is possible that she could die from infection, however, which would be a mercy considering how brutal Joffrey's death was. I also don't want to see Tommen die brutally either, because Tommen, just like Myrcella, is also a good kid who's just had a lot of bad stuff happening to him. He was abused by his brother, and now he's being abused by his mother. It's just sad because it's obvious that Tommen is a really nice kid and could be a great king with proper leaders educating him. It's a shame that Tywin was dead because in the TV show, Tywin was actually educating Tommen how to become a better king, and he was doing a good job of it. So it's a damn shame that all this stuff has to happen to two good kids. Luckily, I won't have to make any more videos about Joffrey in the future, but I will have to make updated videos for Myrcella and Tommen, and it's going to be sad when I have to explain how they die because they're characters I really like and I don't want to see die, particularly because they're so young and so innocent of the cruel nature of the world. So anyway, guys, that's it for this video. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumbs up, share this video with all your friends and all of your various social media accounts. Remember to comment down below and tell me what I did and didn't do so well, and I'll see all you dudes and chicks in the next video.